church to where it's not just word coming across, it's something that speaks to the hearts and minds of everyone in the church. Because sometimes I think as ministers, you get out of the pulpit, didn't I preach that? And the reality of it is, did you really? Because
yeah.
I'm just being honest, because when you look as a preacher, when you look out across the pulpit and you see that you feel this way about the Bible, does your church saying bring the Bible to church? I'm just being honest, I've seen it. When I go into a church, the first thing I look at is how much ivory is and I know we in an electronic word, because I know we got that, but I mean, at the end of the day, how much is the congregation actually doing what you preach? And if they're not doing any of it, and we need to take a step back and say, did you really do that? I don't want to be critical, but it's just some of the things I think about that when we talk about preaching, because now you got preachers with doctorate degrees and theologians, I call them, and they have this knowledge of the word, but is it going into the hearts and minds of the people you give it to? No, that's another question. And I just thought that's just a
well, I think the greatest witness is when your life is an example. And what I mean by that is that you allow yourself to be transparent. You are human. You allow people to see that you can hurt, you make mistakes.
Yes.
You're not this super religious person. And I think if we come off of our idea of trying to be religious or what we think God wants us to be, and really look within our heart and be true with what is within our heart, then we can really be an example to the world. We can also help other people because we'll be able to identify with them, and they'll be able to actually feel it. Because lots of times, sometimes people don't feel people, or they're not really listening to them because they're not feeling it from here. They just talking. But when a person really listens to you, it's because they feel what you're talking about, because there's something that's behind what you're saying that's hitting them, that causes them to say, that person, they're real. And I think today that's what we need. We have a lot of, to me, the gospel today is about show. It's about prestige. It's about having a name. It's not about, Jesus came here and he taught that we're supposed to help our fellow man. The message came and said, goodwill to men on earth. We're here to help one another. And it's not about helping, it's about what can I get from it. I mean, I'm looking at what's going on, and I was wondering to myself, why aren't these so-called big mega preachers out here standing?
Because they're too corporate and they don't want to lose that corporate money.
You better tell the truth.
It's corporate.
Then I feel like this: you are not being a true son of God. You're not.
Okay, but I have to say is, I hear what you say, but I think the leader, like we had a Martin Luther King, that person has not came up yet. And they can get together, and I know from the comfort of their pulpits and things of that sort, but none of them are leaders like that. And that's what we really need, someone to step up and pull all of this together and lead us the right way. I think if one of them came up and did that, we'd be in a worse shape than what we are now. Because their mind and their heart and their thinking is not right.
It's not together.
It's not right. It's not right. So
You mean the people or the
your mega preachers? I don't think none of them. None of them. And I hate to throw names out. None of them.
You know what? God knew before they got here and before all this happened that they were, I'll call them in it to win it preachers.
Would you call them?
In it to win it.
It's me and mine, us four, no more.
Yes.
It's not about going into the world and reaching those that are lost. I remember when I first got saved, My old pastor we had to consecrate. We had to lie out on the floor for a whole weekend and give it up and cry out. And what came to me recently was, if my people, and y'all claim to be my people, but if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves, we have too many cockyisms around here, especially in the mega churches. Humble themselves, it's instructions. Humble themselves and pray and turn. Then, and only then, will I change the situation. And because we're not doing it, and there's a remnant that has not bowed. So we can't look for it in the mega preachers because they've been bowed. It's the remnant that's going to, I believe, that in conjunction with, and I believe this, let me go back. Children of Israel were in bondage. They cried out, and they cried out, and they cried out. As a result, God moved. I think the remnant, those that are really striving to succumb or to surrender their lives, when they start to cry out and reach up, we're looking and we're praying, but not like we could pray, not like we used to pray, and not like we should pray. We don't do it. And I'll be honest with you. Chasing a dollar, I'm not chasing a dollar, but I'd be doggone if I'm not running behind Mister to get my dollar right. But at the end of the day, I still don't have my dollar right. I'm still going through, and all this other stuff is still happening. In all actuality, we've been called to intercede. We've been called to be watchmen on the wall, and we have been called to stand up and make a difference. It does not matter, and this is crazy because I got a mortgage that I got to deal with, but if you got to stand up and lose your job, and this may sound crazy, I'm on the border, I'm actually on the edge of doing this, and I don't care no more. When I look at who's greater, who are men that are mindful of him? If you're not doing it right, then it's my responsibility to cry out. If I don't, the blood's on my hands. At that point, God's going to say, depart from me because I told you what to do, and you know, God. So basically, for me, yes, there's a lot of things that need to be done, but I think first and foremost, those that are remnants, and I can't stress this enough because the way is wide, it's broad. The pathway is broad, but very few people are going in this direction. Everybody's going there. They like the flash and the dash. Preach, Negro, preach. You know, look at me. You know, and I got the big old church now. But how many people got delivered? How many people did God use you to heal of AIDS? That wasn't just good biblical stories. How many people have you raised from the dead? And it's not just the physical dead, and I don't believe that it was just for that time. I keep saying it. I believe it's for this time as well. And then when I pass people and look like you're on their last leg, y'all can say, oh, she crazy, but Father God, help me. Touch him. God, it could be your will. Raise him up. God, I'm laying my hands like you said. And I have to pray out loud and cause a scene. Father God, touch him. He's not going about my business. It's up to God to raise him up. But I've done what I'm supposed to. But how many do that now?
They want to get.
Can I ask this question?
Go ahead.
We talk about leaders now, and if I'm wrong, correct me. You know, but do we actually need to look for a leader? Because I feel like Jesus said that you are the salt of the earth. He said, ye are the lights of the world. And I feel like if God has invested his life in you, and you have done the work in your life and are continuing to do the work in your life to allow your life to change, and you are being a blessing to someone else to make a positive change in that person's life, and then you are affecting that person, and that person go along and affect somebody else, I think that also would make a great change than just sitting around waiting on somebody to say, oh, we waiting on a leader, we waiting on a leader. When Jesus already told us that ye are the light of the world.
But you need someone that orchestrates that. You see what I'm saying? You know, we all are individuals. That's the case. Why do you have a pastor anywhere?
Well, I think you can have a pastor. I'm okay with that.
I would suggest that the idea to be in want or to be in need